The November wind pushed through the downtown bus station, carrying the scent of diesel and day-old coffee as commuters rushed past without looking. On a splintered bench near the far wall, Caleb Turner sat with his 7-year-old son curled against him, the boy's thin jacket no match for the cold. Caleb kept his hands steady even as his voice trembled when the child whispered, "Dad, are we okay today?" Across the street, Alyssa Monroe watched from her idling black sedan. Her world built on glass towers and controlled outcomes, yet something about that question pierced straight through the armor she'd spent years perfecting. She saw a man holding his entire life together with nothing but dignity, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't trust her own certainty about people. When she stepped out of the car, her heels clicked against the pavement, sharp enough to make Caleb look up. "Ma'am, can I help you?" he asked, confused. Alyssa held his gaze. "If I gave you my credit card for 24 hours, what would you do?" The air shifted. Caleb blinked, stunned. And just like that, the test began, one that would unravel everything she believed. Stay with this story, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more powerful life-changing moments. The moment Alyssa handed Caleb the card, the wind shifted across the construction site, carrying dust and the metallic thrum of power tools. Caleb stared at the thin piece of plastic as though it were glowing. He didn't reach for it right away. Instead, he wiped his palms on his jeans and blinked at her, confused, cautious, and exhausted in a way that wasn't physical. It was the exhaustion of a man who had learned the world rarely offered anything he didn't pay for twice. "What's the catch?" he asked quietly, the muscles in his jaw tight. "No catch," she replied, forcing herself to hold his gaze. 24 hours. Use it however you want." His son's laugh drifted faintly from somewhere above them on the scaffolding, a bright sound that didn't belong in the coldness of the place. Caleb finally closed his fingers around the card. His hand trembled, but not with excitement. More like fear. Fear of wanting something he knew could disappear. Alyssa left before he could say anything else, but as she crossed the parking lot, she heard a voice call out behind her. "Caleb!" Another worker, thick build, shaved head, high-vis vest covered in dirt, stormed toward him. "Rick Dalton, site supervisor." His expression was already twisted into something unpleasant. "You done chatting with the fancy lady?" Rick scoffed loudly. "What's she offering you, charity? A pity job? A handout?" He shoved Caleb's shoulder, not hard enough to be assault, but hard enough to humiliate. "People like her don't help people like you." Caleb didn't react, didn't rise to the bait. He only said, "I was on break, Rick." "Your whole life is a break," Rick snapped. "You're lucky I even let you work here. Most places don't take people with your background." Alyssa felt heat rise through her chest. Rick's voice carried easily in the open air, and several workers had stopped to watch. Caleb lowered his eyes, not out of shame. Alyssa could see that clearly, but out of a practiced instinct to avoid escalation. Rick snorted and walked off, muttering something about freeloaders. Alyssa reached her car, fingers curled tight around the door handle. She wasn't sure why that man's cruelty bothered her more than usual. Maybe because Caleb hadn't asked for anything, not even kindness. That night, as she monitored the first transactions, she found herself replaying Rick's words. They clashed with every notification that came through her phone. Children's clothes, medicine, groceries, school supplies, gas for an interview. No indulgence, no greed, only need. By morning, the transactions had slowed, and she drove back to the neighborhood where Caleb lived. She didn't expect to see Rick's pickup truck parked crookedly in front of the building. He was banging on Caleb's door, red-faced and livid. "Open up. I know you stole from the site yesterday. Tools went missing and you're the only one desperate enough to take 'em." A neighbor across the hall yelled that Rick was lying, but he didn't care. He pounded harder until the door finally opened. Caleb stepped out with Noah behind him, the little boy holding one of his new school notebooks against his chest like a shield. "I didn't take anything," Caleb said calmly. Rick jabbed a finger in his face. "Your kind never admit anything." Management already wants you out. Consider this the last straw. Alyssa walked up the stairwell just in time to see Caleb straighten, shoulders pulled back, spine steady. "You're wrong," Caleb said. "And you know it." Rick laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Prove it. You got receipts for your life." "Didn't think so." Alyssa stepped forward. "I do." Both men turned. Rick's mouth fell open. "You again," he scoffed. "What are you, his lawyer?" "No," she said coolly. "But I do own the credit card he used yesterday. Every purchase is recorded. Every timestamp, every location. Nothing was stolen." Caleb looked stunned. Rick turned crimson. "You rich types always sticking your nose." "Careful," she warned, voice like glass. "You're harassing an employee off hours, in front of his minor child. That alone is grounds for termination." Caleb opened his mouth to stop her, but she gently raised her hand. "You don't have to defend yourself from lies." Rick sputtered, but for the first time since the confrontation started, he backed away. Alyssa could see it clearly, the moment a bully realizes he may actually lose. Rick snarled something under his breath and stomped down the stairs. Noah tugged his father's sleeve. "Dad, why was he yelling?" Caleb knelt beside him. "Because some people don't know how to talk to others with respect." The boy nodded as if that answer made perfect sense. Later that afternoon, after Alyssa stayed long enough to confirm Caleb had everything he needed, she returned to her penthouse with a heaviness that wasn't sadness. It was clarity. Rick Dalton was the embodiment of everything she had believed about poverty. That people needed to be controlled, managed, distrusted. But Caleb had shown her something else, something uncomfortably true. The next day, Caleb's final purchases came through. Nothing for himself. Then the text about Unit 12. When Alyssa visited the freezing apartment and paid the bills without hesitation, something shifted inside her. Not guilt, not pity, but recognition. She'd spent her life predicting people with spreadsheets and metrics, but none of that had prepared her for the honesty of a man who chose dignity over convenience. That same evening, she logged into her company network. Rick Dalton's name wasn't hard to find. He'd once been contracted through a partner firm that maintained one of Alyssa's commercial properties. His record was filled with complaints, racial remarks, unsafe supervision, repeated write-ups, but he'd never been removed because the partner firm protected him. Alyssa closed the file. Not anymore. The following week, Caleb arrived for his first day as building maintenance supervisor. The lobby of Alyssa's downtown headquarters gleamed with glass and polished stone. He wore a clean button-down shirt, borrowed dress shoes, and carried a nervous determination like armor. At the reception desk, someone cleared his throat loudly. Rick stood there, arms crossed, smirking like a man who believed himself untouchable. He'd been reassigned to a lower-level task with the same partner firm, and he clearly didn't like it. Well, Rick sneered. "Guess charity really does pay off." Caleb exhaled slowly. "You don't belong here, Rick. You should leave." Rick stepped closer. "Or what? You gonna cry to your new boss?" A voice answered from behind them. "No. But I will." Alyssa approached, expression calm but sharp enough to slice through the tension. "Mr. Dalton," she said, "we reviewed your conduct thoroughly." She handed him a document. "Effective immediately, your contract with all our partner firms is terminated. You are no longer permitted on any of our properties." Rick's neck snapped forward. "You can't do that." "I already did," Alyssa replied. "Your behavior violates both corporate policy and municipal regulations. Security will escort you out." 2 guards stepped forward. Rick's eyes darted between them, then to Caleb, who stood quietly, not triumphant, not smug, simply resolute. "You think this is over?" Rick spat. "This loser won't last a month." Alyssa tilted her head. "He lasted longer than your career." Rick lunged as if to protest again, but security took him by the arms. He stumbled, humiliated, shouting empty threats as he was dragged through the lobby while employees whispered, For the first time his power meant nothing. Caleb watched silently. Noah, waiting nearby with a comic book Alyssa had given him, looked up at his father. "Is he gone?" Caleb nodded. "Yeah, buddy. He won't bother us again." Noah smiled softly. "Good." Alyssa turned to Caleb. "Ready for your first day?" He nodded, steady this time. "Yeah, I think I am." And as the morning sun glinted off the lobby's glass walls, Alyssa realized that for the first time in years, the world she built didn't feel hollow. Felt like a place worth standing in. What neither of them knew yet was that Rick Dalton's downfall was only the beginning of a much larger reckoning, and the next twist was already on its way. When the building quieted that evening, Alyssa stepped out onto the rooftop terrace, the city glowing beneath her like a map of every life she had once overlooked. Caleb's first day had ended hours ago, but the echo of Noah's laughter in the lobby still drifted through her mind. Bright, steady, unafraid. It struck her how much had shifted in so little time. Not through grand speeches or dramatic gestures, but through the quiet steadiness of a man who refused to bend his principles, even when the world pushed hard. She realized the truth she'd spent years avoiding. Change didn't start with power or wealth. It started with willingness. The courage to see people as they were, not as the world insisted they should be. And for the first time she felt that willingness in herself. Unforced, unmistakable, real. As she turned to leave, she noticed something small on the ground near the exit. A single blue notebook sticker, the kind Noah had placed on his new school supplies. It fluttered in the breeze, a reminder that some stories continue quietly, long after the storm ends. If this journey moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales so more people can find stories that matter.